Hello there. Now, obviously, if you've seen one of my videos before, you're probably expecting a little sketch here or something silly where I'm talking to an angel or flying with tires. But frankly, it is way too fucking hot to do any of that shit right now. So sit back, get a cold beer or a soda, whatever your poison is. Just relax. I will be with you in a moment. I'm just going to go set up and find some way of keeping cool. So back in a sec. Actually, I better turn the toxic one on first. So I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Yep, not even the console today. Today we're in the TARDIS Lounge. You can tell it's TARDIS because there's roundels. So this is a new series where I basically list the 5 worst of anything in any sort of series. It's mainly going to be Doctor Who, but let's be honest, I might get bored and change over to something like James Bond. So I was sat there thinking, what should I do this one on? Because the problem is, as everyone knows, I'm not that big of a new series fan, and I'd end up just harping on if I did worst Cycling Man stories or worst Dalek stories, because most of them would be new series. So I was thinking, what sort of stereotypical Doctor Who thing has been done a lot more in the classic series than in the new series? And then I realised, Regeneration stories. We've only had 3 of them in the new one. Well, 4, 5. Okay, we've only had 3 proper regenerations. So, just to clarify, these are going to be stories where the Doctor regenerates, not River, the Master, Romana, whoever. And also it's going to be the story where the Doctor actually regenerates. It's not going to be the post-regenerative story like Spearhead or Castro Alva, although that might be a list in future. Okay, so, top 5 worst regeneration stories. Let's do this! Number 5. Time and the Rani. Okay, so I've already broken my it's not a post-regenerative story. Regenerative? Is that a word? But what other choice have I got here, okay? The Doctor regenerates at the start of the fucking story. I can't do like Colin Baker's last story because it's just an episode of Trial of the Time Lord where nothing really happens. But all of that aside, this is still a pretty bad story. I mean, I like it, but there are massive flaws with it. The main problem with this story is they don't know who McCoy's Doctor is yet. They've had to sort of write a generic post-regenerative Doctor, muddly, wacky character to him without actually giving him any sort of character. And not only that, the rest of the plot's pretty boring as well. It's just Bonnie Langford and Sylvester McCoy gurning at each other while the Rani builds a giant brain. I will say though, A, the effects are really good, including the sort of bubble trap which Mel gets trapped in. 2, Kev's music is fucking excellent. And 3, I really like the designs of both the Tetraps and the Lacurtians. They both look like genuine aliens rather than just sort of what half the 80s Doctor Who monsters look like with just some silver paint on the face. Number 4. Logopolis. The thing is with this list, there's going to be things which I do genuinely like about each story, and with Logopolis, it's the atmosphere. Logopolis is a depressing story, dripping with atmosphere, and it's so doom-laden, and Tom Baker just looks like he knows death is coming for him, and he's got nothing to do to stop it. It's fantastic. The only problem is, you've got to sit through fucking 3 episodes of the most boring shit you will ever watch in Doctor Who. It's the same problem I have with all of Season 18. They seem too focused on the science of the story rather than actually telling the story. It's like they have these high-concept scientific theories and then they just fit a plot around it. Logopolis is the same. It talks about the heat death of the universe and entropy and all that sort of stuff. But the actual main plot is just the Doctor trying to fix the TARDIS and then the Master just comes up and goes, oh, I'm going to be evil now. But it is the atmosphere that saves Logopolis. Because throughout all of Season 18, building up to this story, there's been recurring themes of decay, entropy, all of this sort of stuff, which all connects together, very new series like, in the final story. And other details like the Watcher being a fantastic addition, just this ominous, shadowy figure in the distance which Tom Baker looks mournfully at, like he knows what's coming and he can't stop it. And the regeneration itself is probably one of the best the series had. I really like the idea of the Doctor sacrificing himself to save the universe from the Master. The music works well, the effect looks fantastic, Tom Baker's final words are near pitch perfect, and it's just such a great regeneration scene. It's just a shame it's preceded by utter fucking drivel. Number 3. The War Games. I can't really talk about this one because I can't remember the story very well. It's so boring. The only reason I've actually got the DVD is because it's got some clips of the fan film Devious on there. That is the only reason I bought it. But I thought, since I've got it, I might as well sit down and watch Troughton's last story. And I couldn't stand it. I know a lot of people really like this story, but I can't stand it. It's so dull to me. It's just the Doctor, Zoe and Jamie going between these different time zones, just fucking about. It's like a really shit version of the Crystal Maze. Out through to the World War I zone, da 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 da. I wanted to cut that bit. It's 10 parts long, for fuck's sake. This could have been cut down to about 5 or 6 without constantly going back between fucking different characters that I don't care about. However, The redeeming thing about this story is it has my favourite ever rendition of the Time Lords in the entire series. They're not some stuffy bureaucrats just trying to choose their new president or being constantly powerless like they were in like every multi-Doctor story. They were fucking gods. Episode 9, after the Doctor summons them with the hypercube and they're just racing after him as this powerful, mighty wind, is so cool and probably the best moment in the Troughton era. And even when you see them in part 10, they're still intimidating. They can just will force fields out of nowhere and erase people from time just because they fucking feel like it. They are so cool, and it's such a shame they get crapper and crapper as the series goes on. And also, the regeneration itself is actually pretty creepy. Watching Troughton spiral away without a face is a fucking haunting moment. It's just a shame we didn't get a shot of Pertwee at the end there, just to sort of tease the audience for next season when it all went colour. Number 2, Time of the Doctor. The main problem with Time of the Doctor is it feels rushed. It feels like an entire year's worth of storylines crammed into one episode. It's like Moffat thought he had Smith for one more year, so he was going to plan that year to resolve all of his arcs, like the cracks in time, the TARDIS blowing up, the regeneration cycles, all that sort of stuff. But then when Smith said, oh, I'm leaving this year, Moffat had to go, oh shit, I better wrap up all this before Capaldi comes on, so he quickly scribbled down every single thing he had, even if it didn't make sense. So yeah, let's go over the bad things first. All of the problems with the Matt Smith era are here magnified 1,000 times. The humour is unfunny, clunky and painful. The emotional sequences are just rammed in your face. And the plot threads just go nowhere, and it just seems like he's just massively rushing to get everything done before the end, and none of it fits together very well. One example of this is the Daleks, for example. Like, at the end of Asylum of the Daleks, they forget who the Doctor is. There's meant to be this big plot point that now the Doctor doesn't have to live with the Daleks chasing him down because they have no idea who he is. And then suddenly in Time of the Doctor, they download that woman's memories, Tasha Lem, isn't it? Yeah. They download her memories and suddenly they know exactly who the Doctor is again. So what was the point of that plot point in Asylum then? It just made it completely pointless. Oh yeah, and the Time Lords being in the crack at the end and then them giving the Doctor this new cycle of generations just felt like a wasted plot point. They could have had Capaldi's Doctor knowing he's the last Doctor and then eventually finding Gallifrey and getting these new regenerations, but instead they thought, oh no, we'll just stick in Time of the Doctor and just get out of the way by counting the Stolen Earth regeneration, which no one ever counted. No one ever thought that was a full regeneration until Moffat went, actually, it is, and shut your fucking face if you say it's not. But, and this is the part where we talk about the bit I do like, the regeneration scene at the end is beautiful. I know a lot of people complained that they wanted the Doctor to regenerate on the rooftop, doing the massive speech and blowing up the Dalek ships. I would have liked that, but I think we needed a moment with Matt Smith's Doctor being young again and knowing him how he is in the series so he can do his final speech and then regenerate from that. If we saw him regenerate from the older Doctor, we would have sort of lost that connection. The final scene though is almost perfect. In my opinion they could have cut the Amy sequence, but that's just me. But the final speech is one of the best speeches in the series. It's not because it's relevant not just to the Doctor and his regeneration, but also people's lives in general, about how everyone does change over time. It's such a perfectly worded and performed sequence that you can't help but feel a twinge of emotion, even from a heartless bastard like me. And yes, I even like the quick poof, snap regeneration that he does into Capaldi. I know a lot of people going, oh, it's not a proper effect, it's just the BBC being lazy. We had a proper effect on the rooftop, you daft cunt. The quick snap works because it's the final section of the regeneration into a new cycle, so it's going to be fast. If you watch all of the regenerations from the start to the end, they get more and more violent as it goes on, so it makes sense that the new cycle is the least violent out of all of them. It's just that and he's here. And I think it works really well, and it's nice to see a new regeneration effect after 10 years of the same glowy bullshit we've had. What else do I like? I really like the scene with Clara and the Doctor when they're in the house, when the Doctor's elderly and coming close to his death. What else do I like? I like the church regeneration when the Doctor's being all badass and blowing up the ship, and I also really like the scene before that where the Doctor's in the chair thinking he's going to die and Clara's there, because it's got a nice ominous feel to it, but also a little bit of heartwarming stuff between the Doctor and Clara as well, which is quite nice. But that's all I actually liked about the story. It varies from bad to disappointing to fantastic at the end, but the bad definitely outweighs the good. And the worst regeneration story is... Guess. Go on, guess. Come on, you know what it is. Come on, say it before me, come on. End of Time! In my opinion, The End of Time is not only the worst regeneration story, it is also one of the worst Doctor Who stories ever made. I'm only going to briefly cover it here because if I was to give my full thoughts and opinions on this story, the fucking video would be an hour long. Okay? So, first things first, let's talk about things I actually like about the story. It's actually harder than I thought it was. Okay, firstly, Timothy Dalton was Vassalon. I really like Timothy Dalton. He's my favourite Bond, and also he's a fantastic actor, and he just brought this nice evilness to Vassalon. Although I don't know why the Time Lords resurrected him for the Time War, considering they knew he was a bit of a prick and should have expected him to go all Nazi-ish on them. Secondly, John Sim isn't atrocious in this story. Don't get me wrong, he is still the worst master, but he is infinitely better in End of Time than he is in Last of the Time Lords and Sound of Drums. At least in End of Time, he's meant to be insane and deranged and have completely lost his mind due to the resurrection process fucking up. In Last of the Time Lords, he's meant to be the standard master. He's meant to have just been the master regenerated into a new body and meant to be all cunning and manipulative and sinister like Delgado and Ainley. Instead, he just comes off as a really shit Joker clone. And lastly, Wilf. Because Bernard Cribbins. Everyone loves Bernard Cribbins. Okay, on to the things I hate about this story. Where to start? It's a very RTD story, so automatically I'm going to dislike it. I just don't like the RTD storyline, sorry. But the specific parts to this story which make it bad are A, the main plot makes no sense of the Master putting his face on everyone else, or whatever it was that... No. Secondly, it tries to do the ominous, foreboding, you're going to die thing, which Logopolis had, but it is not anywhere near as subtle as Logopolis managed to do it. It's so crammed down your throat, you're like, yes, we get it, you're going to regenerate soon. The comedy's bad, the characters are boring, the 10th Doctor is at his most fucking irritating in this story. Like, the previous story was Waters of Mars, which I think is a really good story, and the ending is fantastic, where the Doctor just snaps and just starts manipulating time just because he wants to, even though he knows he's breaking the laws of time. And then the Ood appears and he realises he's gone too far this time. And that scene where he's just stood in the TARDIS solemnly and the cloister bell's going off. It's so dripping with atmosphere. It's fantastic. And how do they follow up this? With him coming out of the TARDIS going, oh, look at me, I've just been on a holiday, I'm locking the TARDIS like a car. Fuck off! That completely ruined any build-up Waters of Mars had. And I hated that from the second I saw that. And I was like, oh no, this story's going to really suck, isn't it? However, the biggest problem about End of Time can be found in two scenes. The cafe scene and the regeneration. Now, I'm going to take the regeneration and store it over there because I'm going to talk about that later on, but both of these scenes have an overarching theme. Now, this might sound like me being a conspiracy nut here, but I feel like RTD was trying to sabotage Moffat and Smith's series by turning the RTD fangirls and fanboys against the new series. Hear me out on this. When Matt Smith was first cast, there was a huge backlash from Tennant fangirls and fanboys who were basically like, oh, Matt Smith's gonna suck, he looks like Frankenstein, 10th Doctor forever! Not realising that the Doctor regenerated 9 times before this. This was nothing new. And it's not like Tennant was fired. I would understand if Tennant was sacked by the BBC and they gave Matt Smith and Moffat this job. But he wasn't. He chose to quit because he knew that if he stayed there much longer, he'd start hating the job. As he even said when he made the big announcement at BAFTA. So, you're just arguing about the natural progression of the show. It's the same sort of thing which happened with when Matt Smith left and they got the Capaldi haters going, oh, he's too old, all that shit. But, naturally, when you want to change over the actor, you want to soften the blow for the fans of the show, right? So you wouldn't sort of want to turn the fans against this new Doctor, would you? So why the fuck is there a scene where the Doctor says, it feels like I'm dying, I die and then some new man saunters off in my TARDIS and I'm gone? That is not going to help the situation at all. It is really building up that the fans should hate this new Doctor because he's taken the 10th Doctor's place. And that's something else which appears later on in the Regeneration. So let's get the Regeneration back and talk about it. The actual reason why he regenerates is actually quite nice, I'll admit that. Him surviving, saving the world, all that stuff, although how he survived that fault, I've no fucking clue considering that killed off Tom Baker, but whatever, we'll skip that. But him sacrificing himself just to save Wilfred is a very nice little touch. It's a very nice little build-up of a moment, although the hissy fit where he throws are like, why me? All that sort of stuff, that's a bit stupid. But we didn't need that 20 minutes of fan wank at the end. We were showing off all of the 10th Doctor's companions and him going, oh, bye people. Like, Even Alfonso from Voyage of the Damned. Who gave a fuck about Alfonso from Voyage of the Damned that much they needed him in a fucking montage sequence? We had Journey's End for this, okay? Journey's End was a big celebration of the RTD era and all of the companions coming together, including Rose and all that sort of stuff. Fair enough, you had that, have that, but don't force it again a year later in a regeneration sequence, because it just slowed the entire pace down. What should have happened was, Tennant should have saved Wilf, got out the thing, staggered to the TARDIS, and then regenerated, and that was it. That would have worked fantastically, but instead it just drags it out, and then we've got that bloody bit with Rose, and oh, you're going to have a really great year. Oh. The 10th Doctor's lines, however, are the fecal icing on this turd of a cake. Not only does it reinforce the whole anti-Moffat, anti-Smith vibe, which I kind of got from this, with the whole I don't want to go, reinforcing the fact that Smith seems to be taking over Tennant's job, or something like that, I don't know. But not only that, like, even in the universe, it's a pathetic, whiny way to go. Like, you'd want your... Say you were dying. You would want your final words to be something triumphant and victorious. Not, I don't want to go! With tears in his eyes. For fuck's sake, it's pathetic. It's... I was watching this with my friend Don Chandler, and we literally burst out laughing and went, good job, fuck off when that happened. Because we didn't like him anyway. But that sealed my hatred for that incarnation of the Doctor. Because if he went out with a bang, triumphantly, victorious, pumping his chest, being the egomaniac he usually was, I'd have accepted that and I would have liked that. But no, he had to become that emo crybaby at the end, and it just... Oh... I could not describe how much I hated that and how much I cheered when David Tennant's Doctor did the only good thing his Doctor ever did and blew up that shit coral console room with his regeneration energy. So yes, End of Time is by far the worst Doctor Who story to feature regeneration, and probably one of the worst stories ever made, and I don't care if you like it or not, because I think it's shit. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Sorry if the editing in this video is a bit janky or muddled and that. It's just, I keep fucking up my lines. I'm so hot I can't focus on what I'm trying to say. So I like have an idea here for what to say about like a certain section of an episode, and then suddenly 2 seconds later it's fucked off, so I can't. So I'm sort of muttering a lot of it and making up on the spot like I do with these sort of videos. So again, apologies if it's a bit crappily put together, but now you know why. So I'll probably edit this tonight and get it up tomorrow at some point, and I look forward to reading all of the Tennant fangirl, fanboy comments hurling abuse at me saying my opinion's wrong. Like, I love this. Whenever I say that I hate the 10th Doctor, Belle always goes something like, oh, well, in my opinion, he's the best Doctor ever, and your opinion's just wrong. If you want me to respect your fucking opinion, respect mine first, you fucking cunt. I mean, I know I'm a dick, but for fuck's sake, I'll let you have your own opinions, no matter how stupid they fucking are. Right, I need to find a way to cool down. I'll think of something. Right, bye. Oh, actually, I know what I'm going to do. Thanks, sake. Hit me. That worked. I just want to show this off though. Completely soaked. Utterly bone dry.